To change the overall look of my map, I'm going to use the Layer Settings button. Clicking on it, it opens the Layer Settings window where I can see a list of all my layers. Categorized layers will appear with pluses next to them. Clicking on a plus will open that layer category, revealing the layers within it. The first few settings within the layer settings are on, off, and auto. On means that you can see a layer. Off means that you cannot. Auto means that the layer will turn on at a certain level. In the case of aerials, these are set to turn on at 1 mile. What this means is that when I'm zoomed out to a full max view, I do not see the aerials. But as I zoom in closer and get within 1 mile, and that's measured north to south on the map, the aerials will turn on. I also have the option in the auto section to choose a minimum level. In this case, I'll use the ESN boundary layers. When I set those to auto, I have them coming on at 20 miles and turning off at 3 miles, this minimum range. So as I zoom in, the ESNs turn on and I can see the boundaries. But as I get in closer to that 3 mile or less range, and that's again measured north to south, they turn off. Aerial photos may also be turned on, even though the layer is turned off, simply by hitting the B as in boy key on the keyboard. This only turns on the aerial photos temporarily. As soon as the map is panned, zoomed in, or zoomed out, the photos will turn back off. The same can be done with the number keys across the top of the board. Numbers 1 through 0 on the keyboard will turn on the first 10 layers temporarily on the map, each according to where they're listed in the layer settings. 1 would relate to the aerial settings, 2 in this case would relate to regional roads, 3 to regional highways, 4 to regional counties, and so on. The layer order is important when talking about things like aerial photography. The layers draw in the order that they're listed in the layer settings. In this case, the aerials would draw first when turned on, then the regional roads, then the regional highways, regional counties, county boundary, townships, and so on. If the aerials were moved elsewhere in the layer settings, and to do this I'm going to left click on the box next to the layer name and then drag and release to place in the new area. When the aerials turn on, they overwrite layers that are above them in the layer settings. To move them back, I simply left click on that box and drag them back up to the top of the layer settings list and release. The layer settings also allow me to change the overall look of a specific layer in the map. In this case, we'll look at the highways and interstates. In the map, currently they are orange and a bit thicker than normal lines. Clicking on the layer settings, on the highways layer, I click on the line column. Doing this opens up some new options on the right-hand side of my layer settings window. I can define the layer color, in this case a line width, or a line style. To change a color, I simply select the new color. Closing out of the layer settings, I will see it immediately reflected on the map. The line width may be changed by choosing from the list of line widths listed here, listed in pixel width or in actual real-world feet. Again, closing the layer settings displays the new line width. The line style may also be chosen from a list. Selecting a new style and closing, I may see if I'm zoomed out this far that the line style does not appear. But as I zoom in closer on the map, the line style becomes more apparent. To change those, I simply go back in, choosing the line style, and select the old values or change it back to any other colors or line styles or line widths that I prefer. Line colors may also be classified. In the case of the ESNs, if I just turn them on, and look, my line color is solid color of red. Looking at them on the map, this does not provide much information for me visually. If instead I classify the line colors, in this case by a unique value, and I'll use the ESN number as ESN numbers are unique per boundary. It automatically assigns a color to each ESN number. Colors may be changed by clicking on a color value and selecting a new one from the list. Closing out of the layer settings, I will see that each boundary line now has a unique color per the number that's assigned to it. The labels of features on the map are controlled in the text column of the layer settings. Looking at the roads text, I can see that the text color is set to black, but it has a white shadow outline in it. The font used is Arial, and the label format is using the feature name to define what is displayed on the map. To change the text color, I simply click a new value. Fonts may be changed using the pull down. It can be set to be bold, italicized and underlined, shadowed or unshadowed, and the shadow color may be chosen from the pull down list. Draw Highway Shield requires specific layer formatting. Contact us at 888-225-5984 for more information on using the Draw Highway Shield option. The layer formatting we'll get to more in just a moment. But as you can see, setting these values then closing the layer settings will cause them to display on the map. In the case of something like a parcels layer, I can see as I zoom in closer that the owner name and a parcel number are being used to display for each one. Going to the layer settings and then choosing the text column on the parcels, I can see that it's set to orange with an Arial font, bold, and a black shadow outline. The label format is showing me that the owner name and a parcel and split number with a decimal between them are being used to display on the map. To change those, I can delete out any portion I don't want displayed. As soon as I delete them and close out of the layer settings, it will display without those. To change it entirely, I go back into the label format and remove anything I do not want displayed on the map, then choose Add Field. From here I can select any field in the parcels layer. In this case, I may go down and choose that I want the full parcel number to display. This gives me the parcel number without any other information displayed on the map. Should I choose to add the owner name, again I'll choose Add Field, choose the owner name, and then come into the layer format, and if I like I can put a space in between the two or a carriage return. This puts the owner name underneath the parcel number. The fill column is for boundaries, such as the parcels. Selecting it, I see I have the option of none, set in a color, or set in hatching. To set a single color, I simply click on the color field, then come down and select the color I wish to use. Once the color is selected, an opacity may also be set for that color. Pulling back, I can change the opacity of it to be able to see through to any features or aerial photography underneath the feature. Closing, I can see now that there's a fill on the parcels, but the opacity has been set to a transparency where I can see aerial features underneath. The Draw Area border will remove any lines between the features. Obviously, in a case like this, that is not an ideal situation, so I want that border showing to be able to see where each parcel boundary runs. I can also classify colors. In this case, I'll come down to the public safety and choose the ESNs. Turning those on full and going out to the full map view, I can see the boundary for each ESN is displayed here. The ESNs are the emergency service boundaries for this county. While I can see the outlines, they are difficult to distinguish between. By coming in and clicking on the fill column, I can again choose a color, but in this case I'm going to choose to classify the color. When I select Classify, I have an option of choosing unique values, a range of values, or matching the line color. In this case, the line color has already been classified by the unique value of the ESN number. Clicking Next, closing the layer settings, I can see that each boundary has a unique color based on the ESN number. Fill colors may also be represented in an on-screen legend. On the Fill column, if I click on the Show Legend on Screen, then close out of my layer settings, the legend will appear in the upper right-hand corner of my map. I may also choose Hatching. Selecting a specific fill pattern will show that hatching within each boundary. In this case, where I have the line color classified, each one will display based on that line color. Symbols are meant to represent features on the map that are points. In this case, the addresses are set up with symbols that look like small houses. If I'd like to change those, I go into the layer settings and then select the addresses layer and click on the symbols column. I have options of browsing local libraries, browsing the web libraries, or browsing my local files. Browsing local libraries gives me an option for pulling from symbols from my Simple Symbols library or libraries specific to symbol types, such as electric features, operational features, fire hydrants, utilities, and other things. Selecting any of these and choosing Select will change my feature to that symbol. Zooming out, I can see that the symbol I have chosen will dynamically get larger as I zoom out and smaller as I zoom in. For features like fire hydrants, I may want to choose something specific for a symbol that demonstrates that not only are they fire hydrants, but perhaps I could even classify them based on the line size. In this case, the hydrants are represented currently by small blue boxes. In the layer settings, going to the fire hydrants layer and selecting the symbol column, I can go to browse my local libraries. Pulling it down, I see that I have a library for fire hydrants. I may select that and select the single hydrant type to represent all of the hydrants. However, I may also go in and classify using unique values and choosing the line size. Selecting Next, I now go in and configure each one. Using my local libraries and the fire hydrants library symbols, I can select a specific hydrant type for each line size. Once I am finished and close out of the layer settings, I can see that I have a different colored hydrant based on line size. This can help me quickly make assessments and choices when looking at the map without having to click on individual hydrants to find out what line sizes are. For features like schools, here I see I have a school represented with a small blue box, just as I had the hydrants before. Clicking on it, I see that it is a school. To change that to something that more represents a school, again, I will go into my layer settings, and on the schools layer, I'll choose the symbols column. However, this time I'm going to browse the web library. In here, I see that there are many categories containing different types of map symbols. The specific map symbols directory, once selected, shows me different structure types. Coming down to the S's, I see that there is one for schools. Selecting it and choosing Select will now make that the symbol for those features on the map. The colors of these symbols can be changed by using the fill and line colors as discussed before. Changing those will change the color on the map. When browsing local libraries, it's important to note that anything that it's looking for will be a bitmap, PNG, or JPEG type file. Selecting any of those will make that the new feature symbol on the map. A few points of note with the layer settings. Notice that when I try to click on the center lines right now, it will not give me information on the center line, but grabs the nearest geometry. The reason for that is in the layer settings, the Edit Selectability column has been unmarked on the roads layer. Marking that and going back into the map, I can now click on the center lines and get center line information. There is also the Auto Label column. In this column, I denote when labels turn on and off. Just like the auto discussed earlier, auto here means that they will turn on or off at a specific range, again measured north to south. On means that those labels will be on all the time. In the case of the center lines, the labels refer to the road names. The geocode column helps define which layers are used for lookups. In the case of addresses, the exclude layer from address lookups can be checked to make that layer not be used when doing lookups for addresses using the Find Address feature. This also works for interfaces such as a 911 interface for automatic location of callers. There is also the search suggestion formats. This is used to define what is looked up in the drop-downs when items are put into the search bar. When I type in an address, it gives me the house number, the street name, and the community. Any directionals will also show here. This is all defined within the search suggestion format setup. Intersections would be used for things like roads. In the case of the roads layer, this layer is being used for intersection lookups. Place names are for things like CAD interfaces. If your CAD needs to be able to look up a road, a highway, a landmark, or any business name, layers can be set up to be automatically used for those place name lookups. We hope you found this training session beneficial and to your liking. If you have further questions, please contact us at 888-225-5984 or email us at support@wthgis.com.